If you go right now to the New York Post website, the lead story is all about Nancy Pelosi. Miranda Devine has written a great op-ed. Nancy Pelosi is finished. No one deserves more blame for the Dems' $1 billion electoral collapse than her. Keep in mind, she's the one who stabbed Joe Biden in the chest, and essentially he had to walk the plank. So she is the reason Kamala Harris was the nominee, and she is the reason, according to so many people, that they really stunk up the place this election.
The Democrat Party is in complete disarray, and the person at the center of this chaos is none other than Nancy Pelosi. After decades of wielding power in Washington, it seems her own party has finally had enough of her destructive leadership. The writing has been on the wall for months, but now it's impossible to ignore.
Pelosi told the New York Times that President Biden should have dropped his re-election bid earlier, and that if he had, Democrats might have had the opportunity to run an open primary. And that led to this headline. Axios headline says, "Scoop, House Dems sick of Pelosi." And one senior House Democrat that was interviewed says, quote, "She needs to take a seat."
Yeah.
Right. By the way, how disrespectful it is for the sitting speaker. Keem Jeffries, he's the one who should be front and center. He's the one who should be giving explanations, excuses, and setting up a mission.
The betrayal of Joe Biden wasn't just a political miscalculation. It was a power play that backfired spectacularly. Even prominent Democrats are now openly criticizing her actions. Her desperate attempts to maintain control have only highlighted how out of touch she's become with her own party.
Well, look, the entire campaign, what did Trump signal with the people that he surrounded himself with? They were all outsiders. They are all people who criticized the current system. And by the way, why did a lot of voters give him a chance again? Because he was signaling that. I call it I'm going to sanitize it. Y'all are full of it electorate. They looked at the elites and they said, I think you have been lying to me. COVID was really hard. This economy's been really hard. Biden, I don't even think is capable of being president, and you keep lying to my face about it.
The internal strife within the Democratic Party has reached a boiling point, with younger members increasingly vocal about their frustration. This generational divide has exposed deep fractures in the party's unity, and Pelosi's actions have only made things worse.
Let me just be clear. I'm going to say it. She ain't going to say it. Nancy Pelosi, everybody talks about how the Speaker Emerita, she's so strategic. She can count. And yes, she did all of that when she was the Speaker in Congress. But my question is, where is your calculator now? Because Democrats are about to lose the dang on House. And for her to sit on this podcast, we'll play the sound about how, it's up to the, I don't deal in presidential politics. But she helped orchestrate. I'm going to say it.
This cycle.
She played in presidential politics this cycle. And she helped orchestrate the very public demise of the president.
The implications of Pelosi's political maneuvering extend far beyond just internal party politics. Her interference has created a crisis of confidence within the Democratic leadership, and even her usual allies in the mainstream media can't ignore it anymore. The damage she's inflicted on her party may be irreparable.
Well, nothing is surprising coming from him, but you have to remember when Paul was attacked, and before we even knew if he was dead or alive, what's-his-name was making a joke of it on the social media. He and his children and the Republican governor of Virginia and the Elon Musk, they were making a joke of it, and they thought that was funny. So there's something sick about all of this. But you know what? We don't agonize, we organize. We just have to win this election. And every day that he says something like this in these last days, when people are really keenly aware and paying attention, works in the favor of Kamala Harris.
Instead of addressing the real concerns within her party, Pelosi continues to deflect and attack others. Her desperate attempts to shift blame show just how far she's fallen from her once powerful position in Washington. The stark reality is that her leadership has become a liability for Democrats.
Ultimately, Joe Biden has not been in good shape for a year and a half or 2 years. He should have stepped aside for the country.
And she knew.
And now for the party. And she and other top Democrats saw him with their own two eyes and let this happen. And then eventually she stabbed him in the chest, as I said a moment ago. But it was too late.
And she wanted an open primary. I think she knew in her heart of hearts that Kamala Harris wasn't the right one for the job.
The growing calls for new leadership have exposed just how deeply unpopular Pelosi has become within her own ranks. Her political instincts, once praised by the left, are now being questioned by everyone who sees the damage she's caused. The frustration among Democrats is palpable.
I don't know that but it's close because elections are close. Look back at all the elections of recent time. They're close. And I can just tell you, because I've been in a different city every day, yesterday, 2 cities in one state, Arizona, the enthusiasm on the ground is enormous. You know, I'm a former chair of the party. I believe to win the election, you must own the ground. You must get out the vote. You must call. You must text. You must text. You must door knock. You must walk precincts.
Despite her attempts to maintain relevance, Pelosi's influence continues to wane. Her increasingly desperate efforts to control the narrative only serve to highlight how out of touch she's become with modern political realities.
That could keep that money was the vice president, and she,
because her name was on the ticket.
What I think has come out is that her goal was to make it an open primary. She had everything right until Joe Biden says, I'm endorsing the vice president. That stopped her plan in its tracks, and they were stuck with somebody with 32% approval rating who can't retain a staff and doesn't understand policy and is too lazy to read it.
The evidence against Nancy Pelosi's continued leadership is overwhelming. From orchestrating Biden's departure to mishandling the transition to Kamala Harris, her actions have created deep divisions within the Democratic Party. Young progressives want her gone, moderate Democrats blame her for their electoral losses, and even the mainstream media has turned against her. As we've seen today, her own colleagues are publicly calling for her to take a seat and make way for new leadership.
Well, I could never understand how anybody would vote for somebody so disrespectful of women, so unpatriotic, who speaks with disdain and negativity about John McCain and George Herbert Walker Bush and our men and women in uniform who've given their lives for our country and the rest. I don't know why anybody would be for him. But nonetheless, respectful of the fact that they are voters and they have their right to their opinion.
Even as she tries to deflect blame and maintain her grip on power, the writing is on the wall. Her time as the Democratic Party's power broker appears to be coming to an end. The only question remaining is whether the party will force her out, or if she'll continue to damage their electoral chances by refusing to step aside. What do you think? Should Pelosi step down now, or is she right to maintain her position of influence within the party? Share your thoughts in the comments below.